Thank you for watching Scary Bear Attacks. If you like this episode, please remember to hit the like button and leave a comment or two, then subscribe and click on the bell to receive notifications of whenever we release new videos. Also, please remember to share them to your social media. Welcome back to Scary Bear Attacks. Today's episode takes us to central Romania, to the Carpathian Mountains. The South Carpathians have a range called the Faragas Mountains. They are a spectacular high range with peaks stretching over 8,000 feet in elevation and are one of Europe's last remaining wilderness areas. The rocky peaks of the mountains give way to forests at about 6,500 feet in elevation. This range hosts about 6,000 European brown bears, which is about 60% of the European brown bear population, and is one of the few places they are still flourishing. In the Faragas, oak and beech trees shelter bison, wild boar, and Danube Delta wild horses. These animals don't roam freely in much of their prior European habitat, so Romania's efforts to preserve them are admirable. The predators of this area include wolves, lynx, and brown bears. On June 9, 2019, 26-year-old German graduate student Andi Bauer was hiking with his 23-year-old partner, Lara Booth, from Cambridge, UK. They had accepted an invitation to enjoy a 5-day expedition through the Faragas Mountains, backpacking their way from one tent campsite to the next. They were attending graduate school in Berlin, Germany, and looking forward to some time in the wilderness. The life of a student can be stressful, so they took the opportunity while they had the time to do it. As they packed their backpacks for the trip, Laura grabbed her bear spray and placed it in her pile of items to pack. Andi told her that they were more likely to have the bear spray explode than to experience a bear attack, so she agreed to take it out and leave it at home. They drove to a mountain town called Breaza and parked their car in front of a monastery. A priest struck up a conversation with the couple and inquired about their plans. Once they informed him, he cautioned them from going into the mountains. Lara had a sense of foreboding about the trip, but chalked these feelings up to them adventuring into the wilderness. She had been reading about panthers and bears, and thought she may have worked herself up with such information. On the first day of the hike, they saw a lizard and a snake. They'd also watched 6 wild boars root around for food on the forest floor. Andi jokingly said they would next see a bear. On the second day of their trip, they'd hiked about 3 hours before they came upon a mangled and partially eaten deer fawn. It was fresh, and was a clear sign that a bear was in the area. They hadn't seen any bear tracks or scat, so this sudden sight was concerning. Andi was walking about 20 feet ahead of Lara when they walked upon the fawn. They'd paused to look the carcass over when they heard a rustling in the bushes right next to them. Andi lifted his gaze from the fawn carcass, and his legs went weak with what filled his vision. An enormous brown bear was standing less than 4 feet from him, and alongside her were her 2 cubs. The sow's shoulder was nearly the same height as Andi as he stood to his full height. The sow swung her head toward Andi and was unaware of the hikers, until now. Upon seeing him, she let out a roar so loud that it vibrated his rib cage. Andi wanted to run, but was frozen in fear. He was facing slightly away from the bear, with her to his right-hand side. His mind was racing so fast that he could not decide what to do. The sow leaped forward and clamped her jaws around his right calf muscle. With a powerful jerk of her massive head, she dropped him to his back and dragged him several feet. Lara was petrified with fear upon sight of the bears. She could only yell at the bear while it jerked Andi from his feet. As she watched, the bear tossed her head back and forth very quickly, which jerked Andi from one side of the bear to the other and then back again. Then the sow dragged Andi several yards into the bushes. Lara followed them into the brush while making sure to stay away from the cubs. As the pain shot through Andi's right calf muscle, he yelled for Lara to help him. Lara screamed out to Andi to punch the bear in the eye, as she had heard somewhere that this was a way to defend yourself during a bear attack. Andi swung his fist at the bear's eye with all of his might. He knew there was nothing Lara could do to help him, so he had to help himself. His punch was perfectly placed and whacked against the sow's head with a loud thud. The bear immediately released her grip on Andi's leg. She turned and gathered her cubs up. The 3 bears disappeared into the bushes, leaving Andi and Lara terrified and bleeding. After watching the bear leave, Lara ran to Andi's side to assess his injuries. She looked his right calf muscle over and could see that the majority of the muscle of his calf had been torn open and his leg was bent in places where it wasn't supposed to. She searched through his backpack, pulled out several socks, and improvised an inadequate but necessary tourniquet. Pictures of Andi's wounds would not pass YouTube guidelines, so I've uploaded them to my Patreon account. It is linked below for your review. Please look at these photos at your discretion, as they are fairly graphic. Once Lara wrapped the socks around Andi's wound, they discussed what action they needed to take next. She was too small to help him walk out, so that option was off the table. The next option they'd considered required Lara to hike up the mountain until she found cell service. Andi agreed to wait for her and speak to himself loudly to scare away any other animals that may approach him. Lara didn't want to leave Andi there by himself, but hiked away, knowing she had to get help for it. She immediately grabbed her cell phone and headed up the steep mountainside. As she climbed, she glanced around, still worried about running into the bears again. Storm clouds gathered on the mountains around her in an ominous sign. After an hour, she got service and phoned first responders, who sent out a medical helicopter to their location. As the helicopter approached, they found Lara and landed nearby. She pointed out to the crew where Andi was as they flew her back to safety. The crew returned without Lara to pick up Andi and take him to a hospital in Breaza. Upon arriving at the hospital there, the medical team recognized Andi's wounds were too serious for their facility. He was immediately flown to a hospital in Targumuras. Andi underwent surgery to clean and repair the damage done to his lower leg during the bear attack. His tibia and fibula had been broken in 3 locations and required the insertion of 3 screws attached to an external cage to hold his bones in place until they healed. After receiving treatment in the hospital in Targumuras, Andi was transported back to Berlin to finish healing from the bear attack. He was bedridden for many weeks before his leg was strong enough to start rehabilitation. His perseverance through a very long and painful rehabilitation routine eventually led him to make a full recovery from his injuries. Now only the huge scars are left to remind him. After reviewing the facts surrounding this episode, I have a few questions for you. Do you think the bear spray may have prevented this attack? Do you think the bears returned to the fawn carcass after seeing Andi and Lara in the area? If Andi had dropped into the fetal position, would his mauling have been less severe? I will enjoy reading and replying to your thoughts, so please post them in the comments section below, and let's talk about it. Thank you for watching Scary Bear Attacks. If you've enjoyed this episode, please consider clicking on the like button and clicking on the bell icon. We'll help you know when we post our new episodes. Posting our video links to your social media profiles furthers awareness, and it's fun. We slashed our prices in our merch store, linked below, so check out the bargains there while you shop. As a member of our human community, remember to adventure bravely and be careful out there, especially in bear country.